All righty. Hey, man, it's the Hellion from the Hellion Rocks. We got a special interview tonight, somebody we haven't talked to in a little bit. We got the man, the axe man from Crown by Fire, Justin Manning. What's happening?
What's happening, guys? What are you guys doing?
Oh, not much. You know, we're kicking back, doing a little photo editing, trying to keep the rock and roll machine going like we normally do. We've been hearing some good things. More good things, like we always hear good things about Crown by Fire. You got some news, man. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, man. Well, basically, it's been pretty much top secret since pretty much the Southern Horsepower tour, maybe a little bit after that. But basically, Stephanie Shaw was the one that booked us in Little Rock, Arkansas, when we were on tour. And I met her through Sterling Winfield, and she's a music promoter. Basically does, throw shows, put shows together, videos, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So general rock and roll, mama. Anyway, she, I guess was, really into our performance and everything about us, and basically offered some help. And when it came down to it, it was like, well, why don't you just start a record label, And so she did. And the whole record label has basically been built around us, which is unheard of these days, and pretty much about the best situation you could be in today's music market, So, I mean, labels that people have heard of, if you do get a deal with them, there's no tour support, there's, they own everything, and you're lucky to see a dime, So, basically, we negotiated for a few weeks when she got all her ducks in a row. And, the main thing with getting this record out was that we wanted to maintain the quality because of who's involved with it. Well, because that's what we always do. We've always done that. That's always our number one thing. We never put out shit, as far as like quality goes. We'd rather wait until it's, competitive with the biggest bands in the world that have millions of dollars. Good enough is not good enough. And so,
absolutely.
You know what I mean? So anyways, with this situation, as most people know, Zakk Wylde opened up his studio to us, the Black Vatican, and basically through a conversation, many conversations between him and I, it was like, you want a fucking record deal, dude? Here's your fucking record deal. Come make a record. Because that's all it is anyway. Because you're not going to get tour support. So what's the fucking difference? And you don't owe me anything. You can use my studio. There's your record deal. So I get, naysayers and shit talkers, ask me, well, you're such good friends with them, why don't he give you a record deal? Well, my answer is always, well, he doesn't own a record. He's not a record company guy. He's a guitar player, A, and B, he did. He let me make a record. The thing is that even if he, waives the huge expenses of what it would cost to record in a studio of that caliber, there's still expenses. There's expenses with engineers. There's expenses with, because you have to have somebody driving the fucking spaceship, Him and I don't know how to do that, So, so there's those expenses. Then there's the expenses of mixing it. Obviously, Sterling Winfield was slated to mix it, and that's who we wanted. I'm a huge Pantera fan, and let's face it, Pantera changed the face of production in metal.
Absolutely.
They just did, And Sterling Winfield was part of that. So, and so he's given us a phenomenal rate. But nonetheless, that still costs money that we don't have. We're starving musicians. And that's really what's been the whole hold up on the whole thing. And then obviously you have to master it, which is, another huge expense. And then duplication is another huge expense. And then you're sitting on a stack of records. And granted, over the years we've gained fans and they're going to buy them, but it's not going to, recoup the amount of money that it would cost. And you end up being in the hole. And that's where record labels come in, because they do have the money to make it all happen. And then, to promote the album, to, pay for PR people and so on and so forth, and that's really what it comes down to. So she offered to make it happen with a return on her investment, and we came to an agreement and signed the deal. So now, next week, it was going to be a 4-song record. Now it's going to be a 6-song record. Yeah, one of which is a B-side from Prone to Destroy that did not, actually 2 of them are B-sides from Prone to Destroy that nobody's ever heard before. So they were actually recorded on Prone to Destroy and did not make the album, basically because you have an allotted amount of time, a lot of amount of space on a compact disc, and there wasn't enough space to put the songs on there, so we had to pull 2 of them, and they're both really fucking killer songs. So one of which
just went up.
What's that?
I said my geek factor just went up a couple nights.
Yeah, actually, one of the songs is the first song we ever wrote, and it's called "Crown by Fire." And we wrote it before the band was named Crown by Fire. So there's that, and then there's another one that some may have heard. We did a cover of Blue Oyster Cult's "Burning for You," and but we put it out kind of like as a free download, but we never really promoted it really heavy. We never really, at that point we didn't know what to do with it, and it came out so cool that we wanted to, be able to give people the option to hear it. But like I said, it was never promoted very heavily, so majority of people, unless they're really got their ear to the ground with us, haven't heard it. And it's going to be remixed, and and it features a friend of mine, Dario Caponera from Italy, who's an absolutely smoking guitar player. And it's me and him basically dueling it out over the song, because Blue Oyster Cult had 3 guitar players. So right. I felt like, me jacking off all over the song would get boring, So we basically brought him in when we were in Italy recording Prone to Destroy. We brought him in to guest star on it. And I felt really bad because when it didn't make the record, it was like, fuck, It was like, this guy came, and played on American bands. I mean, the guy needs to be in America playing guitar. I mean, it's just, no doubt. The guy absolutely fucking smokes. But anyway, so it'll be me and him on that one, and Tommy Victor is on one song that everybody's heard, which is Buried Away. We pre-released that because it took so long for this EP to get done. We had to give people something. In hindsight, I wish we would have kept everything quiet so we could hit everybody, but like I said, it just took too long. So, we gave them one, but that still hasn't really been mixed. So basically I go in the studio this, not tomorrow, but following Thursday with Chris Collier, and we finish one song that absolutely nobody's heard. And we kind of revamp and redo Burner for You, and then edit, make sure everything's picture perfect, and maybe add a few things here and there, some guitars or whatever. And then we head over to then it gets shipped off to Sterling in Dallas. So, and then he's going to mix it, and then we get it back and improve the mixes, and then it goes off to duplication. It'll be out mid-March on vinyl, and also on CD, and obviously download, so.
Nice.
And then we'll start a huge, marketing promotional campaign, and really just try to get it out there as much as possible, and then start, working on, a tour. So.
Great. And you're still working with the title, Space Music for Cave People, right?
Yeah, Space Music for Cave People. I wasn't ever really sold on it, but, everybody else has sold me on it. The cover was it was done by Sam Sheeran, and we sent him that song when he did it, not with the intention of that being the title of the record, but he ended up making it the title of the record and did the album art around that. And, you figure when somebody of that level of talent tells you, no, that's the name of your record,
right.
You go, you know what I mean? It's just, the universe, that's what the universe wants it to be. That's what it's going to be. Sometimes you got to just let things be, and it's an interesting title. It's really different. It really makes you think, and that's one of the songs on the record. And, basically the song is about, and I guess the whole album is about, the evolution of music, from cavemen to astronauts, and if you could go back in time, we thought about, a video concept for it of like, a caveman like drawing, Aussie logos, and Motorhead logos and shit on the inside of a cave.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where that comes from. John's a trippy writer, so I stay way out of his way when it comes to lyrics and all that stuff, because his concepts are just so out of this world that it's like I just let him do whatever he deems fit, and it always ends up really neat and way more interesting than anything I'd come up with. So,
it's a good thing because it all works. It all works.
Yeah, no, it totally works.
The music fits the lyrics, man.
Yeah, in the 8 years that we've been together, it didn't take me long to realize, wow, this guy really knows what he's doing. It was like, and it didn't take me long for him to totally trust him. And I've jammed with people before where it was like, that sounds kind of cheesy, dude. Let's scratch this line, change it to maybe this. Basically having to kind of hold their hand through it. With John, you don't have to do that whatsoever. I might say, like, when we're in the studio, I might say, add a tail on the end of this, like, melodically, or let's, say this word instead of this word, or take this word out because the syllables rhythmically make more sense if you do it this way. But that's as in-depth as I get, as far as, lyrics go. I definitely leave all of it up to John. So
that's
it's a neat relationship.
It is. And Crown by Fire as a whole package, as a powerhouse. You mentioned earlier that you guys don't half-ass anything, and I can guarantee that because I was very lucky and caught you guys on your Southern Horsepower 2013 tour for a show, and it was impressive all around. The way you guys came in, your gear, your setup, your professional attitude, the power you brought through. There was no bullshit about your show. You guys were there, and you guys were there to destroy.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, that's one thing that I've learned from the pros that I've worked with. It's like, if you're going to do it, you got to do it all the way. I mean, I think a lot of today's metal acts or rock acts or whatever, there's been this whole weird thing that has happened once grunge hit, where, it's minimalism. It's like, why do I need two bass drums when I could have a double bass pedal? Why do I need 4 cabinets when I can just have one and use the PA? Fuck that.
Yeah.
It's like, nah, dude. It's I want a full-on audio-visual assault. And if I have to break my back to make it happen, then that's what I got to do. bigger than life. And I think that that's one of the things that's really pushed us across because, you know, when we roll into town, you know, and we set up, everybody's like, holy shit, these guys are not fucking around. You know, and then, you know, it's all being used. It's not necessarily to be louder. You know, you can always turn the amps down. One of the biggest misconceptions that always gets me is like, people will look at like my guitar rig or whatever, you know, and they'll be like, Jesus Christ, dude, why do you need, you know, 16, 12-inch speakers? You know, isn't that going to be louder? Well, scientifically, no, it's not. Because, you know, if you have a 100-watt head and you're running 100 watts into a 100-watt cabinet, the 100 watts coming out of that cabinet. But if you run it into two cabinets, there's only 50 watts coming out of each.
Yeah.
So I run two heads, 4 cabinets. So there's 50 watts coming out of each cabinet. So it's kind of like running 4 50-watt combo amps. You know what I mean? It's not really that fucking loud. It's just very full. And what you want to do when you're playing this kind of music is move a lot of air. You know, so when you hit the real chunky shit, you know, you're moving air. There's force behind your sound. You can, you can do the same thing. Yeah, yes, you can do the same thing with a half stack and mic it through a PA, and yeah, you can do that. But you can go big and mic that, and it's going to be even bigger. And so, you know, that's always been the thing. You know, just bigger is better. You know.
Well, you know, and going back to that live show, I saw you guys. You know, not only could we feel the music, the clarity was there and the tone was right. So you guys are definitely got it locked in.
Yeah, well, I mean, you know, it's definitely, it comes down to quality. You know, it's, you know, they're basically vintage, modded. Well, they're not really modded. They're just vintage Marshall amplifiers, tube amps. You know, and it's just Marshalls, lots of Marshalls, and they're in stereo. That's another big trick that we utilize. You know, and Gibson guitars, you know, they're $4,000 a piece. You can tell the difference between a $4,000 guitar and an $800 guitar.
That's a guarantee.
Yeah, it's a guarantee, dude. Not only do they play better, but they sound better. And so, you know, money talks. And not that we have any. We don't have any because, you know, look at the shit we have on the stage. But, you know, and that's really what it comes down to. I mean, essentially, it boils down to, you know, not because he's my friend, but because he's got the greatest guitar sound in the world. It comes, you know, Zach, you know, he taught me. He's like, look, this is what I use. This is the way to go. If you can find something better, let me know. And I still haven't found a greater guitar tone. So it's basically the same thing. It's basically the same setup as you'd see Black Label playing on. You know, that's what it is.
Yep.
It's kind of like
you look back
and playing your local bar, you know.
Right. You look back though, you know, at our icons that we worship. You know, what did they play through, and what do they have? And you're keeping that alive.
Exactly.
You know, that's the sound we grew up listening to.
Actually, absolutely. You know, if it's not broke, don't fix it. You know, all my heroes. You know, all my heroes. You know, Jimmy Page, Slash, Zach. You know, Billy Gibbons, even Eddie Van Halen. You know, I mean, all those guys played Les Pauls, but Eddie Van Halen was playing, you know, basically a Strat with a humbucker in it through Marshalls, and you know, it just sounds better than anything else. Nowadays they have these really cool systems that can kind of like switch patches of pedals and switch channels on your heads and stuff like that, like the fractal system. That's something I'd really like to get my hands on. But other than that, you know, there's not much more that I need, you know, other than maybe, you know, newer versions of what I already have would be cool. You know, so they're super reliable, but other than that, man, you know, we got it dialed. So yeah, it's fun stuff.
And, you know, what's keeping you, I count you. I don't like to put numbers to people. What's your favorite this and this and this. There's a group of, people that I keep coming back to. And, you're in that with the guitar players because, obviously I know your inspiration. You're welcome, man. I know what you got. I know where you come from. And yet it's distinctly your own. You pay homage to the guys we've spoken to in the past, Jimmy Page, all that.
Right.
There's a little dime in there too, but it's Justin Manning. I can hear a song and I know it's Justin Manning playing guitar. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, well, I think one of the things that I learned early on working with John was that, paying homage isn't copying.
Right.
Sounding like Ozzy kind of rules. Then there's guys out there that, look and play the same guitar and play all the same licks as their heroes. I try to differ a little bit. For me, it's kind of hard because I actually learned from Zach. I actually kind of actively take guitar lessons from the guy. He lives, next door to me practically. I could walk to his house. So, there's definitely his influence. Obviously Dime, especially rhythm wise. My riffs, I would say, are probably more like Dime's than they are like Zach's, I maybe it's 50-50, but there's, then I'll strap on a V with a whammy bar, and pull out some Eddie Van Halen type stuff, but then, then probably sounds like Dime because Dime was hugely influenced by Eddie Van Halen. So, then there's, guys like Angus Young, I'm really into country players. There's a lot of kind of sort of redneck southern kind of licks going on that I'm really into that stuff. Chicken picking, things like that. So, I just really try to celebrate, I think the whole band is really into like classic music, Zeppelin and Sabbath and Motorhead and, bands like Molly Hatchet and bands like, Blue Oyster Cult, Boston, stuff like that. And I think that, there's not really any metal bands really doing that. If they're classic, they seem to be more like doomy, which is cool too, but we're more metal. I wouldn't know if we'd really consider us a doom band or a metal band and that was always the thing. We'd always get lost in the shuffle. So it was like we just made our own term, classic American metal, because that's what it is.
Yeah, that's it. And I think that's what draws me into you guys, is the fact that I hear references to those bands that you said that I grew up loving, Boston, Thin Lizzy and all that. I hear that in there, and it's familiar to me and it's comforting, but yet at the same time it's something new and fresh.
It's new at the same time. Yeah, absolutely. Right. I think a lot of bands too, I think they try too hard to be original. And that original doesn't come when you try. Original just happens. It's not something you can make happen. Original just happens. And, fucking look at, Guns N' Roses. They're totally original. But you ask them, they're like, dude, Aerosmith, duh. And you're like, oh yeah, oh yeah, you totally sound like a cross between AC/DC and Aerosmith. But that's just how it goes. They're like, dude, fucking Aerosmith rules, and so does AC/DC. Let's do a band that's kind of like that, and it ends up coming out totally original. They didn't sit down and say, let's be original. It just happens,
And that's the magic.
That's the magic. That's the X factor. And I believe we have that X factor.
I do too. You've got the new record coming out, and you've got a very, very rabid fan base. I've seen people that are, they're getting your logo inked on them. That's a cool thing, and people that support you guys through and through.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's tricky, man, because those people are going to die with me and the rest of the guys on them forever. That's a weird thing to, kind of ponder, it's like, wow, so I mean, we end up making friends with all those people. I'm a very social person. I don't like to really be by myself, really, unless I'm like going to bed or something. So, I like people. So, when it comes to fans and stuff like that, I'll just go out and fucking hang out with them, and drink with them or shoot the shit or talk about music, or, crack jokes and laugh our balls off, I'd rather do that than anything, the guys that hide, or, too good for anybody, all that bullshit. It's fucking gay, it's totally gay. On the other hand, on the other hand, though, I've had it get weird, too. I've had it get really weird. You know what I mean? So
absolutely.
You have to be careful. You know what I mean? Like, I've had some really weird shit happen with some people that, that I've tried to be, fans that I've tried to be friendly with. So, it's only because you mean more than a regular person to them. So it's almost a compliment, in a way, and it's like fucking whatever. But, you got to just be, close but distant at the same time. And,
exactly.
And,
but that's a good way for you to know what your people are wanting and expecting of you. It's good, to stay on the business side, it's good market research to get out and talk to the people that are listening.
Absolutely. That's the whole thing, is to really try and just connect, just connect with people, and social media is a great way to do that. Social media is, a great way to be able to talk to your fans, and if you can keep up with it, it can get a bit out of control. You can't always answer everything because generally everything isn't a question. You know what I mean? So, but I do my best, and that's, I have 2 children, and I still have a full-time job, and, and then, I get off of work and come home and I got to cook dinner like everybody else, and I'm tired like everyone else, but I really try my hardest to really reach out and answer everybody's questions. And I think that's one of the new things that's going to come with this label is, coming up with new creative ways to really connect with people, whether it's, Skyping, or chat rooms where people can ask whatever questions they want, whether it be about the history of the band, my history, what's going on now, guitar gear, whatever they want at a selected time in which is set aside to do that and actually be able to, because right now it's kind of a mess, you know what I mean? It's just kind of like, people just writing you randomly constantly. It needs to be sort of funneled and corralled so that it can be dealt with properly and people don't feel left out, so that's definitely one of the things that we're going to work on. And, man, I'm just excited to be able to, record and move ahead without being financially bound. Without having to stop and wait for something to happen because we don't have the money to do it. That's cool. That'll, better yet, even make some money. I haven't really pondered that yet. That's not even, in my scope. Yeah. Of course that'd be great, and God knows I need it, but to be able to just be artistically free and be able to move ahead at a fast pace, is really what I need to happen. So, yeah, it's going to be neat.
I got a good feeling about Chrome Mountain, man. It just seems right. So I think
Yeah, well, like
all that's gonna,
like I said,
happen.
I mean, yeah, one of the things is like, I was talking to Tommy Victor, from Prong and Danzig about it, and he's like, "Geez, man," he's like, "I want on that label," He's like, it doesn't get any better, than that type of a scenario. It just doesn't. We're number one on the priority list. And that's never going to happen. Being number one on a priority list is, you sign to a larger metal label, you're going to be like number 90 on the priority list. You call and you get a secretary, and if things don't work out right, they just drop you. People get shelved,
Absolutely.
and that's embarrassing, and that's really frustrating and hard to deal with. This situation, in order for the label to even really be a viable label, they have to pay attention to us and what's going on, and that is really one of the major up points, to our situation, is really knowing that there's somebody else on the other end of that phone. Somebody that has an invested interest in answering your phone call. You know what I mean? That's just so valuable. That alone is just so valuable. So, in today's market and the way that things are today, it's the way to go. Start your own label if you got some cash, or find somebody that you trust that does, and make things happen. So that's what's going to go down, and it's going to be neat, man. Definitely going to be neat.
That's cool. I talk to people that are out there touring right now, bigger, that used to be filling stadiums, that they're still in debt, from being owned by a big label, and they've been cast aside, but the debts are still there. So they're still out there humping it for something that really doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of like, if you buy, if you bought an apple for $100,000, but 90% of it's rotten, you only get one bite out of it. I'd rather have a smaller apple that I can get 3 bites out of for $10,000. You understand what I'm saying? Because I only owe $10,000 back before I can buy another apple. Why buy a $100,000 apple that's rotten? What's the fucking point? There's just not there. It doesn't exist. So, it's just what it boils down to. Today's, and that's the funny thing is because people that are uneducated in this industry still have this idea that a record deal means, a tour bus, a $100,000 advance, and a tour with, Motley Crue. And that could not be further from the truth. For a lot of bands that don't have this unique situation that we've come across, it's better to not be signed.
Yep.
I mean, it just is.
I think that's the new trend, man.
It is the new trend.
That's the way it is.
If you're going to be signed, it's got to be in a scenario like we just found. So, I mean, that's just the way it is. I mean, unless, of course, you have a big name from something previous when the industry was huge. Then in those cases, from what I know, and, I obviously have insight to the bigger acts, they when they do have a large name like that, generally when it shows a record label on their album, the record label isn't necessarily doing anything other than distributing the record. Duplicating it and putting it in the different stores and almost kind of providing like a playing field. They have their teeth still set in the playing field, and they can get you to this, that, and the other thing. But as far as like touring and shit like that goes, I mean, it just comes down to what can you make as a guarantee, and what you make as a guarantee is directly. There's a line drawn. What you make as a guarantee is directly connected to what you pull. Per club, theater, arena, whatever. And I actually recently found out that a lot of bands that are playing arenas, they curtain the arenas off. They're not, just because somebody's playing the Forum doesn't mean that the Forum is sold out. They curtain these places off depending on the act. I didn't know that. I learned that recently. And, some of your biggest, most favorite bands, are only going to draw 5, 6, 7, 8,000 people. And that's a lot of people, but it's not the same as it was in the 90s when Pantera would draw 25,000 people to the Forum.
Right.
It's not the same because the industry's not the same. MTV doesn't even play music. There's 82 billion different styles of music now. There used to be rock, rap, and like R&B. Yeah, class. I mean, but as far as like what the kids were into, there's like R&B, rap, and rock / heavy metal. And those are your three choices to choose from. Now, some kid could be into rap as much as he's into heavy metal. Shit, I am. I like some rap. I like, I just went and saw Willie Nelson. I mean, I'm a musician, so I guess it's a little different, but, nonetheless, you know what I mean? So there's, there's a lot of people that are into electronic music, which I can't stand, but, whatever. It's just so different now. So
it is, and that's recently been a subject of mine that I've been talking to a lot of people about. Is I grew up listening to, like you just said, there were like 3 radio stations: the rock station, the country station, and then the R&B. And on the rock station, you would hear everything from ABBA to ZZ Top. So your mind was exposed to all this different music.
Right.
And you weren't limited to what and you'd hear the songs that you liked, and when they came on, they were special and magical. It wasn't like, oh, that song again, and you didn't have neo-pop, post-classical, thrash, grunge, speed metal, it was freaking rock and roll. Rock and roll.
Right. Well, and there was, yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was, there was only, if you were into metal, when I was a kid, it was Metallica and Slayer and Pantera and, you could get into different, thrash bands like Exodus, and shit like that. Now there's 250 different types of metal alone.
Right.
So it's like, it's not even, you just be like, oh yeah, I'm in a metal band. It's like, well, what kind of metal? I've got buddies that play math metal. I've got buddies that play, all different styles and types. I've got, buddies that like it, but would rather play pop rock, which I like a lot of that stuff too. I think fucking John Mayer is an amazing artist. He's a great songwriter. He's a phenomenal fucking guitar player. Most guys that would listen to my music wouldn't listen to John Mayer, So it's like, there's just the exposure level is so different now. Once the internet hit, dude, it just absolutely fractized everything and shattered it into a billion different pieces. And what we do is only one little piece, And I think, part of what makes an artist successful is how many of those pieces can you fulfill, So that's kind of what I try to do. I mean, not consciously, but, subconsciously, I think, because I listen to so many different kinds of music. I think that we end up kind of crossing over a lot of different boundaries. And I think that'll be a little bit more well-known with this new stuff than with Prone to Destroy. Prone to Destroy was like, let's just, write the most, heaviest fucking metal record we possibly can, and bring in as many different metal influences as we can. Whereas with the new stuff, it's a bit more, I don't know. Maybe I think the band's just kind of found its voice a little bit more.
That's cool.
I'm it is cool.
To that.
It's really neat to sit back and listen and go, wow, we pulled this out of thin air, and it's totally original yet familiar at the same time.
Right. And I think that's why we get along so much. Is we don't limit ourselves, and it makes you the better musician. And,
absolutely.
Me on the other side, it makes me appreciate it more, knowing that, I hear that, or I hear a little bit of this in there, like we discussed earlier. And instead of limiting yourselves and getting the same thing rehashed over and over, you get a new thing out of it, and a lot of people disparage an artist when they change, when their life experiences change, and it causes them to change and it causes them to grow as musicians. People pigeonhole themselves into a situation where that sucks. Well, no, they did.
Absolutely.
Their new expression.
Absolutely. I mean, absolutely. I think that, music is pop culture. And so it directly affects, the clothes you wear, your hairstyle, whether or not, your tattoos, whether or not you wear, you have tattoos, what you're into as far as like, recreationally, skaters listen to punk rock, and metal. They just do. Surfers listen to, Bad Brains and punk. Whereas, gangsters listen to rap. And so, being the kind of music buff that I am, I've kind of really tried to branch my knowledge of music, and really just, I really don't sit around listening. I mean, I've said this before in many other interviews. I really don't sit around and listen to metal all day. I don't run out and buy the latest metal band's record. I figure if it's great, somebody important's going to tell me about it. Right. Is somebody like Avenged Sevenfold my favorite band? No, I'm not really into the eyeliner and the, hairdos and the fucking, all that shit. But on the other hand, they're playing guitar solos and they have double kick drums, and they have, they're fucking metal and they could play their asses off. And so if the kids are into it and it's getting on mainstream radio, then that's great for, like Zach said. I mean, he's the one that told me this before he said it on that metal show. So listening to him here, say that on that metal show, I was like, yeah, he just got done telling me that. It's just great for the whole rock community as a whole, because it is. It's great to see a band that does that be so big. Because when I was growing up, somebody like Nirvana was the one that was playing arenas, and Soundgarden and Pearl Jam. And I hated that shit. Because I was like, these guys suck. These guys can't play their way out of a wet paper bag. You know, where's the guitar playing? Where's the solo? You know, I came from the school of, you know, Eddie Van Halen and fucking guys like Tom Kiefer and, you know, guys that can really play the shit out of the guitar. You know, John Sykes, you know, Zach Wilde, fucking Jakey Lee, you know, guys that can really play. And I didn't like it, you know. But then on the other hand, you know, they wrote great songs. So what I've tried to do is once I kind of conquered the guitar aficionado thing, not that I am, not really saying that I am, because you never stop learning stuff. There's still tons of shit I need to learn. But once you can really kind of solo and do all that kind of stuff, it's like, okay, well, what are you good at solo? Well, solo doesn't mean anything if you don't have a great song. So that's when I really started to really open my mind and start to look into why do these kids like Tupac so much, or Notorious B.I.G. Why are these kids so fucking into it? And then you listen to it and you go, well, it's because it's a great fucking song. You know, it's got an amazing hook. You know, or like the Zeppelin songs. You know, they've got amazing hooks. The Beatles, amazing songwriting. Anybody who was ever huge had amazing songwriting skills. And so I really started to, I still do, I research it every day. Cheap Trick, one of my favorite all-time bands, you know, one of my favorite bands of all time, wrote amazing fucking songs. Are there amazing guitar solos? No, but who cares? The song is amazing. Thin Lizzy, I mean, who writes better songs, you know? I mean, it's like, oh my God, dude, like, you know, so amazing. ZZ Top, they write amazing songs. Jimi Hendrix, it didn't matter what he did on guitar. It does matter, but it wouldn't matter if he didn't write amazing songs. Comes down to the songs. And so every day I study this art form, and it ends up accidentally happening because I study it. I don't sit around running scales and seeing whether or not I can cover an Yngwie Malmsteen song. I don't care. You know, I don't care. I'd rather write Guns N' Roses. Slash is an amazing guitar player, but it wouldn't matter if they didn't write amazing songs. The band never wrote a bad song, in my opinion.
I agree 100%.
You know what I mean? So that's real. And you know, you ask them about their influences, and it ain't all rock and roll. You know, Elton John has a big portion. You know, Axl Rose, you can love him or hate him, but you cannot take away what that guy. Nobody has brought to the table what Axl Rose has brought to the table, still to this day. You know, and you ask him who his influences are, you know, Elton John, Billy Joel, you know, Bon Scott, you know, but Elton John and Billy Joel don't have much to do with rock and roll, you know, but, you know, so you gotta think about that kind of stuff. And I think that's where a lot of people are missing the boat, and that's why they won't sell a lot of records, you know, so.
See, and that's cool. I had another conversation with somebody, and we were talking about a similar situation, and he threw out the phrase fast food music, that there's so many things out here now that they're not taking the time to cultivate that songwriting technique. They're just finding something quick and easy to throw out and, you know, be in your ears for 5 minutes and then it's gone. And where is it today? It's gone. You don't think about it. Whereas the song
it'll just be a trend.
Talking about.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, unless you're like an innovator, you know, like Meshuggah, you know, they innovated that sound, and they'll have a career forever. You know, because they're innovators and they created a new type of music. But, you know, all the bands that try to sound like them, you know, there might be one or two that get thrown into that category and get put up on the pedestal that, you know, close to them. And there will be, there is already. But but it's not going to have the same impact that a band like Aerosmith had, or a band like Led Zeppelin had. And if you were to ask Led Zeppelin what their influences were, they'd tell you the blues, American blues.
Exactly.
And that's what it comes down to. I think that pop culture follows America, and if you can make Americans happy, the rest of the world will follow.
Yep, that's a true statement.
So, America is the hardest territory for any band to conquer. And so if you can conquer America, you've got it all looked way before you even get anywhere else. Now Europe is where they really celebrate, hard rock and heavy metal. And, I've been to the Wacken Festival in Germany.
Ooh, nice.
And,
nice.
I actually walked out on stage in front of I don't even know how many people, it was 150,000 people or some shit. Right. And I was teching for Black Label and walked out there and, hit an open E chord on Zach's guitar and watched the place go fucking ape shit. And, you don't see that. You're not going to see that in America. Again, because the trends are so divided right now. But, I definitely see rock and roll, again, when I was a teenager, there was 15 of us in our high school that listened to heavy metal. And the rest of them listened to rap or R&B.
Wow.
Now you go to a high school and it's 50-50.
Yeah, it's coming back.
Yeah.
And like
so
you said
people,
just a minute ago, talking about the whole culture thing, there's some friends of mine in a brand new band, young guys called King Creature. They're over in UK right now. And they're dying to get over here. And I'm like, dude, you guys got all the fun stuff over there with the big festival. But to them, the goal is to break America.
Right. Oh, yeah. No, I know those guys. Those guys are really cool. I actually chit-chat with the guitar player.
Oh,
and,
nice.
Yeah, those guys are really good. And, I've actually given them some guitar tips, on,
cool. Nice.
on kind of how I do my setup. And, they're big Black Label fans and CBF fans. So they've asked me, some different things, about our guitar setups and sort of what we do. And I actually, sent them, some of the demo versions of the new stuff just to kind of show them, examples of what we were talking about, production-wise as far as getting a certain guitar sound, how I do it, how Zach does it, how Dime did it, how, not that I'm even in the same category, but they ask, so I tell them. And, but those guys are great, man. They play their asses off, and they got the cool, dual lead, dual Les Paul Marshall thing like Thin Lizzy did,
Yeah.
And, those guys, again, it's like my buddy Dario Caponera that's playing on this Burner for You with us. He's an amazing guitar player and would fucking smoke 99.9% of the guitar players here in America that I know personally. And, but he's stuck in Europe, and he's like, all I want to do is come to America and play guitar.
Yeah.
But how do you do that? How do you do that? Unless you land some major record deal that doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah. It sucks.
It sucks. That's the way it is. So hopefully, hopefully this thing, helps his career and gets him, some type of visibility in America. And I think it will. I know it will. So, he's part of the bloodline, man. He's definitely one of us, you know what I mean? So
that's awesome.
But yeah, it's just, and it's the same thing for us, it's like, how the hell do we get to Europe? That's
I got a feeling that's going to happen.
It's going to happen. It will happen.
So.
Dude, it's already happened.
So.
It happened before anybody even knew who we were. Let's put it that way.
Yep. Yep.
You know, I mean, we lived in a villa, you know, in the hills of Tuscany, and recorded our whole first record in Florence, Italy, and nobody had any idea who we were, other than the locals around the town that we live in here in LA. And there wasn't even that many of them that knew about us, you know. So, you know, that's saying something. You know, the band's already been to you.
Well, you guys have already been there. You've already destroyed, and it's just going to keep getting better for you guys. You know, we're talking to Justin Manning from Crown by Fire. Just signed a deal with Chrome Mountain Records. We're looking at an imminent release of Space Music for Cave People. I got a feeling 2014 is going to shake the world up with Crown by Fire. What do you think?
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. And, you know, definitely looking to get on the road, you know. Right now it's probably looking more like late summer, and try to get out there and do what we did before, maybe a little longer, maybe up the ante on some of the venues. Dallas is our hot spot, you know. They love us out there, so it's definitely going to hit Dallas, Texas, Houston, Texas. Going to try and do New Orleans, and, you know, head more towards the eastern side of the United States, because anything like west of Dallas, there's not a whole lot there, you know, but a bunch of desert. And so monetarily, it's very difficult for us to travel a really long way without, you know, huge guarantees. You know what I'm saying? So you got to kind of stay within the territories that are the major cities are closer together, and we have a lot of fans down there. So I think I'd like to hit, you know, Florida, Clearwater, Florida, that sort of area. I believe we may be doing a festival in Canada. We've been asked to do that, so I believe that may be a part of that whole thing. But, you know, we don't know. You don't know until it's in writing and it's signed, and you got fucking plane tickets in your hands, you know. So
yeah, absolutely. You don't want to.
In our world anyway. You know what I mean? So
right.
And it just keeps snowballing, and it just keeps getting bigger and bigger each year. And so, you know, for the bands out there that are trying to make it, you know, the secret to success is longevity. You know,
that's it. And you know, and the drive to want it.
Absolutely, and being good.
Yeah, that's true. And never giving up. You know, one of the things I noticed that you post, you know, I've seen you talk about is never giving up, never taking it for granted that you've succeeded in that. You know, you're always striving to get to that next level, and it's, you know, what did you do today to make yourself better? That's a lesson.
That's right.
That, you know, I know you're younger than I am, but a lesson that I've actually learned from you is what have you done today to make yourself better?
That's right. You know, the thing is that the levels never stop. The levels are infinite. Whether it's, you know, learning something new on guitar, I don't care how good you are, you can always learn something new. With the industry, with your business ventures, with anything, you never stop rising. The only time you stop rising is when you quit. And you know, 90 again with the percentages, 98% of the guys that I grew up with that were players and, you know, were with me, or competitors, or, you know, friends, or whatever you want to call them, that were in other bands, quit. You know? And there's like 2 of us, 3 of us, 4 of us maybe, out of the batch of guys that I grew up with that are still actively pursuing it. And of course, they were the most talented, and they are also, the guys that really, really, really wanted it. Really were going to do whatever it took to make it, and we're doing it. And, one of them is my buddy Chris Collier. He's doing it. We just wrote, and recorded the new Prong record, and myself and Tommy Victor. I'm trying to get him hooked up with Mobile Death Camp.
Oh, nice.
He did the stuff with us up at Zach's. And him and I have been working together and writing together for a decade now. Maybe more, longer. We've been jamming together since we were like 15 years old. And yeah, dude. And so
Chris just finished the drums and production on. There's a couple guys here in Albuquerque, Mike Ariza and Jeff Sandoval, that they made a record with Frank Hannon last year.
Uh-huh.
And they've done a solo project now, the two of them. And they just finished it, and Chris played drums and mixed and mastered it, and Kurt Arft played bass on it, and it's a hell of a track. So Chris is keeping his name out there good, man.
Yeah, no doubt a doubt. And, Collier, he just got done with the KXM record.
KXM,
and with Doug Pinnick, George Lynch, and Ray Luzier from Korn. And and obviously the mighty Doug Pinnick from fucking King's X, one of my favorite bands of all time. And it's just like, I couldn't be prouder of the guy, and it's just like, I just keep keep blowing air into his fire, and I keep, I brought him the Prong, project, and, all the musicians that I run into, and I run into a lot of them, I'm like, look, dude, you're going to pay a shit ton of money for this, that, or the other guy, and you're going to pay for him too, but you're going to get a superior product with him. And, now I've got him, hooked up with Sterling Winfield, who's obviously,
love Sterling too. Great guy.
He's like a god in the world of metal production. But it's just like, so I mean, I can't say enough great things about Chris and everything he's done for Crown by Fire. I mean, he makes the last record, and and it's just so he scratches my back, I scratch his, and together we just keep climbing, man. We're not in a band together, but we've been in many. He's been in Crown by Fire. I've been in his bands. We just, we keep bouncing.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And so, yeah, dude, it's, he's going to be very successful.
That's cool.
I promise.
There's a funny side story, man. We keep talking about how small the world is, right? So last year at NAMM, we're at the Schecter show and Prong played. And,
I was sick,
watching
man.
Tommy.
I would have been there, but I got sick,
You were sick. Yeah, Tommy's jamming, and I feel somebody behind me is getting pushed up against me, and I turn around, it's Doug Pinning. And,
what? I was just at the Schecter party on Saturday, and Doug Pinnick was there, and I stopped him, and I was like, dude, Doug, I'm a huge fan, and I'm really good friends with Chris Collier. He's like, oh, man, awesome. So you've heard the shit. I was like, yeah, dude, and, we had a chit-chat. Anyways, go ahead. It's funny you say
he's
that.
A great cat. It is too, because he was, they were pushing him. He's had some health issues and stuff, and he was getting beat up in I think it was during Prong when they were getting into it, and he was getting beat up a little bit, and he was getting pushed up against me. And I said, dude, come up here, because I was right up there taking pictures, and we stand there and chatted a little bit. What a great cat.
That's awesome. Wait till you hear. Wait till you hear the
KXM.
Well, yeah, not only that, but the new Prong record, man. It's just
I can't wait for that.
So fucking brutal, dude. It sounds like Slayer meets Prong meets I don't even know, dude. Lamb of God, I guess. It's so heavy. I mean, imagine taking Tommy Victor, myself, and Chris Collier and putting them in a tiny room together. And it's just like balls to the walls. Just what's the most insane thing we can do? I mean, there's this blast beast, fucking shit ton of double bass. You know, it's just insane, dude. You know, actually pretty soon here I'm going to go down and put some leads on a song called Chamber of Thought, which I co-wrote with Tommy and Chris, and yeah, dude. So I'll be featured on the new Prong record, and again, I can't say enough about Tommy Victor, man. You know, he's just, what a great guy. Never let any of this shit go to his head. You know, he's the most unassuming fucking dude. He's cool as fuck, dude. And it's just like, he guides me as well. You know, he's got a different view on things than Zach does. You know, he didn't make it when he was 17, so he's got a bit of a different outlook on things, and it's really, he's another one of my liaisons that I go to, if there's a contract or something. I'm like, hey, what do you think about this, or what do you think about that? And he's also featured on the new CBF record, so he's doing vocals on that.
Yes.
And yeah, dude, so it's really neat. So anyway, there you go.
Yeah, it's cool. And what's funny is I just was yesterday talking to Chris about setting up an interview with him, so I'll be chatting with him pretty soon too.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. You need any help with that, you let me know. Not that you do, you know him now, so and I'll be in there with him next week. And
nice.
He's definitely an interesting dude to talk to because, he's got his hands on all kinds of different cookie jars, so it's not like talking to him. Yeah, not like talking to a musician who's doing one project. He's got, multiple things going on, and he's a very interesting, intelligent guy. So, again, I can't say enough about that guy. So,
cool. Well,
anyways, there you go.
It's about time we wrap this up. So, we're going out now to my sightseeing in 140 countries. About 3,500 people view it a week. The floor is yours, Justin. You tell the world what you want to tell them.
Buy the new record. It's going to come out in mid-March. Go and like the Facebook page, and support the cause and support everybody that has helped us. Prong, Black Label Society. Everybody who's had their claws in this project, go out and support them as well, because we couldn't do it without them. So there you go.
Crow Mountain Records, like those guys. Support that label.
Like Crow Mountain Records. Yes, absolutely. And also do yourself a favor and listen to Mobile Death Camp. Those guys are going to be huge on the metal scene. You watch. Those guys get it. And they are the hardest working band in metal, in my opinion, that are not getting support as far as the label goes. So like their page and go to their shows and buy their merch, because you will not be disappointed when you go to see those guys. Trust me.
Very cool. We've been talking to Justin Manning, Crown by Fire, one of my bands that I keep going back to that never has disappointed me in live performance and on record. Great cats. This is the Hellion from the Hellion Rocks. We'll catch you next time.